What do you think has made you
I
successful?
run a business. I own
Yeah.
a real estate company. I'm the CEO. I'm the, God forbid, the HR director. I'm the
Are you
CFO.
sure?
I fire myself every now and then because if I have a bad day, I fire myself and then come
Oh.
back the next day. Education's key.
So it's your job to educate your clients, consumers.
Yeah.
Don't be greedy.
If you're coming across something you can't take control of right now and get a solution for it, how do you feel you do in time management?
Joanne's going to edit this part out, but actually, it's a lot of Adderall. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Joanne.
Perfect.
Edit that out.
I think the number one thing we'll talk about is taking care of your client, right?
Yeah.
Um, Taking care of your client is probably the most important thing to me because once you center yourself around the client and be very transparent in what you're trying to accomplish, lay out the guidelines of who's doing what through this transaction, and the client's not hitting with any surprises with that with throughout the transaction, then it goes very smoothly. And then if you do come across a road bump, they already know about that up front. Perfect example, an appraisal that we had come in short the other day. I found out, look back on the situation and see that if I would have probably talked about this could potentially happen, then it probably wouldn't be in such a, a kick in the throat to everybody involved in the transaction. So I think that's one of the biggest things is giving them as much value as you can up front. That way they can make the decision easy and it makes it easier on you if you ever have to pivot or turn.
Yeah.
But
No, absolutely. That probably something I've noticed with you working side by side with you and Joanne is you spit out so much information and little things that I might not think that it's a big deal. You're like, no, you have to like say it, like give them all the information. You really make your customers feel like they're your friend and but in a business professional way. And that's I think that has gone a long way for me working alongside you guys. It's building that relationship, making people feel comfortable with you, and no one is gonna, tell you, you know, stop giving me all this information. I don't need all this. I mean, they want to be educated.
hmm
So it's your job to educate your clients, consumers.
yeah, what would you have done differently when you started? Now that if you'd have known what you know now, what would you have done differently? And what did you do when you came out? How did that look?
Started it, but I really didn't have the mentorship that I needed. But I didn't know what I was doing. I did marketing and sales for over 10 years.
hmm
I knew how to be a salesperson, but I didn't know how to do real estate.
hmm
I grew up in Fort Myers, Florida. I knew the area like the back of my hand, but I just, I needed that education and I wasn't getting it from that
Yeah.
brokerage. And I sold homes. I got a listing. I have no idea how I did it, but I did it. But I just didn't have the resources that I needed.
Yeah. And then, just to help everybody that's watching this, I mean, that's a common thing that we hear about, I do a lot of coaching and mentorships and 99% of the people, exactly what you just said, right?
Hmm.
Number one, don't listen to your freaking friends, guys,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you that they don't have the best for you, the best advice for you. Um, and I did the same thing, right? I, listened to somebody but I actually cut it off real fast and I spent a lot of money on coaching that was kind of outside of my arena, put
Hmm.
me in a very uncomfortable zone um, in a cold room. And we just did objection handling and calling and really I just got beat down
Yeah.
making calls one day. And it was tough, man. There was 10 people. I think we ended it with five
Mm.
at the end of the 7 days.
Wow.
And but I look back on it, it was the best
Yeah.
experience I ever had.
I
Is
think that with my marketing and sales background, we that's one thing we did. We did objectives. We did cold calling. I was never scared to like pick up the phone and have someone yell at me.
Hmm.
And I did have that training, not with real estate, not
Hmm.
probably on the level, but people don't realize how important learning objectives, learning scripts. You don't have to, you make anything your own, but you should be practicing those things. That's what makes you better.
Because the number one is just taking care of your client. I think
Hmm.
that's the number one thing here. Be professional, communicate, open communication. Um, be able to give them as much value as you can to
Absolutely.
where they can make a valid decision and an educated decision because it makes your life easier given everything up front. Number two is education. Education's key. Going back and looking at your education and stuff like that. Did you get any sort of other education, or did you take the class, just start, or did you
I
just
just,
jump right in?
yeah, so I kind of just like jumped right in and I didn't really realize the tools that were utilized for me. It was like, here's the MLS, call this by your listings, do this, do that. Like, no one actually took the time. I actually thought that I was bothering people. And I'm just like, I want to learn. I didn't realize until I went to the broke, like I started working with you and Joanne and the other, being with our brokerage now is don't be greedy because you're you got to remember you're paying for education out of that. So who you are working with and mentoring, like that's your education. So you should be willing to pay for your education. And I
Hmm.
think people just look at it as, I need to make as much money and they get like greedy. And it's like, you still have to pay for your education
Hmm.
because I'm sorry, paying for four or five, however much money people are paying for their real estate license, that's just not enough. You got to
Hmm.
be, I mean, we're learning stuff all the time.
Yeah, yeah. When I came out of the gate, people that are watching this that don't know me or whatever, 2019, I was voted the number one breakout real estate agent of the year
Oh,
in
wow.
2019 when I first came out of the gate. Came out killing it, making calls, and a lot of that was due to mentorships and me just having an aggressive approach to it. But what I will tell you, peeling back the education piece of it, once I got where I thought I was successful, my mind kind of switched and it started relaxing a little bit. And that's where, if you let your foot off the pendulum, um, it basically will stop quick.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that's one of the biggest things. And then I kind of slowed down educating myself, which was kind of sucked because I wasn't taking the time to learn to fill my schedule with educational things if I wasn't on a client call or talking to other people or talking to other brokerages, building rapport. So that's huge that you say that. Education is evolution. I mean, we went through that this year with NAR, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everything is completely changed. So very huge. Number three, um, one of the things that I do is because mainly I do mostly commercial specialization with inside your industry of what you want to do. I think is key too.
Absolutely.
Uh, we've never bought a lead ever
Yep.
since 2019. Don't need to buy leads, and we're overwhelming with leads all the time. And we just contribute that to just taking care of the client and always asking for more business at the end of the day after the closing. So,
Yeah.
very key. Uh, I think a lot of times people don't specialize in things they're, good at. I think that's key is be the expert in whatever you're trying to do, and it's going to help
Yeah.
you be more successful.
For me is new construction. Like I've found that
Mhm.
that's kind of been my passion.
And then just being there for your client throughout the process, let him know what the process is. Number four, talking about sales and motivation. Sales and motivation is my thing. I love it. I drive you crazy daily with motivational things, and I'm Tony Robbins fan. I've got it tattooed on my chest. Um, you know, uh, I'm big into energy, sales, motivation because you are the only person to keep yourself motivated. So, with that being said, what are some things that you've seen that you do um, that have helped keep you motivated in this process? Because this is it's a hard career.
You can't be driven by money. Like, yes, you need to make money. I mean, that is what actually drives us all, but you have to be in a very comfortable spot. So whether you still have a part-time job or you have enough income to get you through 6 months or a year, whatever it is. Because if you're stressed about how you're going to pay your bills that month, you're probably not going to sell. Like your mind has to be clear. You have to wake up every day being like, I love what I do. Like, you want to educate yourself. Like, it's fun. There's no stress there. I mean, the job, regardless, is always going to be stressful, but it's not financially stressful.
Hmm.
And you should never go into this in a financially stressful area because you're going to end up giving up. Like, that's definitely key right
Hmm.
there. You want to be able to give your client one correct marketing. That's going to cost you money. You want it to look professional. You really just don't want to half-ass anything.
Yeah, I mean, eh, I'm a different animal,
Yeah.
so I never even focus on money whatsoever. Focus on the relationships, building the
Yeah.
relationships. And I've been in some strenuous situations where look at the bank account, I'm down to $100 in the business account, and for whatever reason, it's like anything in life. If you don't focus on the negative, there'll
Mm.
always be a positive. I get a call, and all of a sudden, I got a new deal.
Yeah.
So huge in that. And then also waking up, just motivating yourself. Every day is a different day, especially in this business.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Every day is a different day. I mean, it's like
You
a,
think you're going to do something, one thing, but like really it goes the complete
yeah,
opposite way.
yeah. You just have to make sure and keep reel back in to take care of the things that you
That
thought
are
you were going to take care of.
absolutely
Because if not, then those things just keep piling and piling, and then that just causes
make
stress
it's a lot.
throughout the day. So very key,
Yeah.
consistency and prospecting. Let's talk about that. Um, I know from my standpoint, I'm very consistent and
You
very
are.
very big in prospecting. Every day I spend probably 2 to 3 hours prospecting and being consistent. And it's not even just like prospecting, right? I just pick up the phone and I call people I've done business with in the past. Like I got a lead the other day just by talking to somebody I did a deal like 3 or 4 years ago. Picked up the phone, hey, how's it going? Just want to follow up with you, kind of see what's new in life, right?
Hmm.
And they were like, dude, I'm glad you called me, man. I got
Yeah.
so consistency is key. If you don't have consistency, you don't have structure, this shit will fall apart real
Absolutely.
fast. And so,
I don't think there's anything that you do that isn't prospecting. That's like how natural it comes to you. Like, you could just be grocery shopping and you bump into somebody and start talking to them, and it's just like next thing you know, you're boom, 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 breaking everything. I'm like, did you just so you help what people think are the little guys
mhm,
because that little guy might be a big guy one day.
yeah,
And I think that a lot of people, forget about that. Like you literally look at everyone and you're like, that's a prospect, that's a prospect. You never say no to anybody.
yeah, that's
That's
true.
huge.
I do say no to some people, but
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 yeah,
very few.
very yeah.
Time
Time
management.
management, yeah.
How do you feel you do in time management? And how could you get better in time management?
So I would lie if I would say that, oh, it's like I just go down my list and do everything and it's perfect and I'm done. And no, like Probably like it's like a bomb went off. And I do really good as far as making a schedule. I'm like, this is what I have to do. I'm very regimented, and that's just me, like in human nature. And I have a routine, and I don't like being out of that routine. So I am good with that. But time management can be tough in this job because something that might take 20 minutes, well, guess what? It's now taking a couple hours to do. Um, so I mean, you just have to, one thing that I know that you and Joanna taught me is like when things like that happen, sometimes you have to just take care of everything has to be done right then and there, the most important, and then you have to get to the little things later. Not that anything's little, but the things that have to be done right then and there, you take care of them. Because it can, you know, there's only 12 hours in a day, and I wish that we only had to sleep every other day, but it
Mhm.
doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, prioritizing is key in
Hmm.
this. Is you break it down, if you're coming across something you can't take control of right now and get a solution for it, then don't just
Yeah,
move it
move
on.
on.
Move
Yeah,
on to
and we'll
something
circle
else.
back later.
Management of time, prioritizing the next week because, you know,
Yeah.
not falling to plan, just understanding your priorities, what's a
Hmm.
priority and what's not a priority. And life, right? I know I've changed over the last probably 2 years tremendously on prioritizing my life and who I spend. Everybody says the top five people who stay around, these are going to segregate your life. It's sick, but it's probably
Yeah,
true because the
absolutely.
people you spend the time with are the habits and the consistencies that you start picking up, right?
Absolutely.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I used to be the happy hour king, man, when I was in banking. And every Friday turned into Saturday, Saturday turned into Sunday, Sunday turned into Monday.
Yeah.
So, but now it's like more of I'm strategic of going out, right? Um, if I go out and I feel like it's not something that I can either talk to somebody about business or at least have ability to get in front of.
It's part of one just maturity and wanting to grow as a person. If you're not wanting to grow as a person and you just feel like I'm happy, I'm content,
Mhm,
well, you're probably going to fall into depression at some point
mhm,
in your life. But yeah, it's really about wanting to constantly grow. There's not one of my best friends that isn't in a better situation
mhm,
today, than they were last year or last week. That everyone's climbing up. Everyone is, moving up in their career or, just next step in their life. And, if we plan on those fun drinking, times, it's vacation.
mhm. Reducing time wasting activities is number one game. Big. I run a business. I own a
Yep.
real estate company. I'm the CEO. I'm the, God forbid, the HR director. I'm the
Are you
CFO.
sure you're HR?
CFO. Yeah. I'm HR,
I,
which is scary as shit. I can't
I,
fire myself.
I don't think
But
he's
what I will say,
HR.
I fire myself every now and then because if I have a bad day, I fire myself and then come back the next day. Marketing manager, SEO, social media manager. I mean, I have the ability to lean on my business partner because we have different specialties that she's good at social media. She's good at,
Yeah,
and if everybody watching my social media knows that it shit ain't me, man. It's Joanne's
yep.
doing all the social media. I just copy and paste. But God bless her for that. But um, you're you're running the business. Did you think that running the business was going to be as hard as it is when you started out?
No, I knew it was going to be really hard. Um, One, because I'm I'm a very motivated person. I know how to sell, but I've never ran my own business before. And that was one reason why partnering, with you and Joanne was so important to me because you had that mind. So I knew that I was up for a challenge for myself. I was already kind of mentally prepared. But did I know I was going to be as exhausted as I am? Probably not, but I know it's well worth it. And
Yeah.
you got to be willing to have sleepless nights.
I mean, it, it's running a business, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you look at the income coming in because that's why I prioritize. I mean, and if Joanne was here, she would be laughing right now because I'm always talking about income, and she hates to talk about income. But
but it's
it's
part of
just
it. Yeah.
it's human nature to me because I've run multiple companies, and it's just human nature to
Yeah.
me to stay above because that's what pays the bills, pays the debt, pays
Yeah.
everything. But um, and the biggest key is being able to pivot in such a sense where you have to do this, this, and this, and that's when time management, blocking off time to do certain tasks is very important, but not getting overwhelmed with so many tasks. And I think we've had this conversation
Yeah.
before. Is if you get too oversaturated with too many tasks, overanalysis paralysis is when what I always say sets in, and then you just become stressed, you become unmotivated, and then you start just tumbling down the
Yep.
little ladder. And that's when an HR person like myself, I fire my ass and I leave and come back to it
Yeah.
because it's key.
Yep. Mental health is very important. But I also think that's why it's so great to have your lifelines, which I call you and Joanne my lifelines because I'm like, I just can't. So, it is that I do really think you're one person, you can't do everything yourself. And it's important to have a really good team behind you because any business has everyone has their spot in it.
Yeah. Top things that has helped me through doing this business. Obviously, every day is a different day in this business, guys. I think there's so much that you get hit with on a daily basis.
Joanne's gonna edit this part out, but actually it's a lot of Adderall. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Joanne.
Perfect.
Edit that out.